a lovely contest which leads into the 164th running of the Lormara Kings Plate, the Weight for Age Mile. It's the Grade 1 event. It's race 7. Last year we saw Charles Dickens romping home to victory, and it was the whole race course just came alive. It was wonderful to witness. In second spot was See It Again, third spot was Real Aussie, and fourth was El Mutana. Just so that's how they finished in the last running. And where are they going to finish this year? Interesting now. Snow Pilot, who Justin Snaith, I've thoroughly enjoyed you watching this horse because he's just physically so impressive. Pace-wise, do you think that's where the trick is with this race and with him in particular?
Well, look, it seems like he's only got one type of way of racing, but he is very impressive at the moment. I mean, he won the Guineas as a 3-year-old, and I thought he was very unlucky in the Natal Guineas. He hung. If he hadn't hung, he was home Jerome. Remember, he hung right across the track, and that's
he had
where
a strange KZN season from the.
I know we couldn't hold one side of him at Summerveld. Every time I never forget. I'm trying to canter him on a slow day, and the Appies are there on a Wednesday, all going down the track, and there's your Group 1 superstar, and you've got 10 Appies coming past, and off he goes. So it's an art of training there, I can assure you. And this horse was it was near impossible and eventually his head just went. And I tried to salvage it into a 1200 because we just weren't getting him to settle. Try to salvage it in the 1200. He actually ran disappointing there as well. So he just trained off on me, to be honest. He's a very, very impressive miler. And if there was a 7 furlong in South Africa, I'd hate to see how far he'd win it. Flying at home. I've tried to train him as best as I possibly can in the manner in which he races. So coming into the race hot, ready, and obviously give a lot of respect to One Stripe. He is a very impressive young horse, and I'm sure he's going to run a creditable race here. Real Aussie is a horse that I get the feeling everyone thinks is just not at that level, you know, but the horse has never done anything wrong. I mean, last time he went down a short head, not a short head, but he was getting closer. He's come on from every run, and I do think that he's a horse that he's going to run that solid race. He's going to be thereabouts, and he could run a big race here. Great Plains, I liked Great Plains for this race from the beginning because he's a hard knocking 2-year-old. Come into the season, his comeback run he won. His next run he ran 3rd in the Guineas, 2nd run after a rest, and now 3rd run here, and he's tough as nails. He's a Danon. Nothing phases him in that he acts all crazy, and he still comes and he'll eat that night and be an idiot on Monday. He's that type of horse. So running against the older horse, he's too doff to know that he's actually up against the older horse. He doesn't care. So I like that sort of attitude in a 3-year-old because I can't hurt him. He hurts himself every day. So what have we got to lose? And he's not far off One Stripe, and you get the feeling that he's getting closer and closer every time they run. I do think that it's going to be an incredible race and a very tactical race.
Yeah, tactics are going to play a huge part in this race. Justin Vermaak, One Stripe, has he been that impressive for you that you think that he's going to come into this race and it's going to be an easy task or a capable task?
In any year where he wasn't meeting Snow Pilot, you would say this is the year for another 3-year-old to win. Of course, if there was a Charles Dickens, he would be, yes. Without a super older horse, he'd be odds on, rightfully so. But he's got a super older horse here in the form of Snow Pilot, who, and again, like for me, I keep on when we're on these shows discussing about the importance of pace, which is it's the one thing that it's the hardest thing to predict going into the event. But how the race is run is going to be pivotal to whoever wins it, obviously. Snow Pilot's drawn 13 with Richard on. He is going to be nowhere but on the lead. Like it's an absolute certainty. Unless something goes a ridiculous pace, then he'll take a sit and have a bit of cover, which might be even better for the horse. You know, depending on the conditions out there and how fast they're actually going, he might be better with a lead. I remember Anton Marcus saying years ago about Variety Club, because he was so fast that nothing could ever, he jumped 2 lengths clear, but he always used to say, geez, I wish he'd be even better if he had something to follow into the straight, but nothing could ever go with him. He was so good.
And you also can't take it away from him. If they've jumped clear and they're so fast into stride, to take it away from them, it costs them at the end.
Exactly. And this horse, he's come back so good as a 4-year-old. He won the Guineas. At that time, you're thinking like, maybe not. A filly ran second, Red Palace, I think she ran second that year in the Guineas. Maybe not a vintage renewal, maybe he's not that good. But then this year, he's come out like an absolute bull. And he's the sort of horse, for me, speaking out of turn, if he can come and win this race, the way Charles Dickens was winning it and that sort of thing, which I think he has the ability to do, he's the absolute perfect type of horse to go and fly the South African flag in November in America, because those tracks will suit the way this horse runs like you cannot believe. And that's a few steps down the line, but in my personal opinion, I think that's how good he is. He's better than 125. I think he's 130 plus, and I'm hoping that he can get there at some stage by winning a few big races like this one, and adding to his already impressive resume, which will serve him well with that outstanding pedigree at stud. And I'm sure, we all know Justin's already turned 50, but I'm sure it gives him some pleasure and highlights his age when he's training. He trained the champion fillies, and then he trains their champion siblings, and he's probably going to train some Snow Pilot babies too when he's 60. So that will be rather interesting. But
I would not be here.
But One Stripe, I mean, the cool thing about One Stripe is obviously he's a standout sophomore. 8 on 18's not far behind him on what we've seen. He's a bit different. He's going to be better over 2,000, I think, where One Stripe looks like a real severe miler. And obviously, without being too sadistic about it, I like to, in defeat to Snow Pilot, to me was his best run, because he's given the horse a kilo, which is criminal at that time of year for a younger horse. And he was a length behind him. Probably should have been allowed to use himself a little bit more and not have Snow Pilot build up such an advantage, but it was first run of the season. And now he's getting 5 kilos, so he's 6 kilos off for that length, better off for that length. And it's going to be a fantastic race. So I do think he's a little bit unlucky he's bumped a real super looking older horse, but for me it's got to be between the two of them. If we're looking outside of them, See It Again is obviously a very good horse. He's a 2,000 meter horse at best. Unfortunately for him, the big 2,000 meter races he's been running, and he's giving lumps of weight away, which hasn't helped him. But don't forget, he looked like he was dropped in the Greenpoint over a mile last year when he won, and then ran second to Charles Dickens. So his mile form's not awful. And you got to also respect a horse like Give Me a Prince. I'd love to talk to Dean about this horse, and I will catch him one of these days, because he's such an interesting horse. This, for me, he wins the Cape Fly, 1,000 meters. He wins the Scottsville race, 1,200. Like, he's the best sprinter in the country. He wins 2 Group 1s as a sprint, and then he stopped sprinting because Dean is obviously convinced he goes a mile. And based on his last run, he's probably right, because he ran an absolute cracker behind Rascallion. It's quite interesting to me how a horse who would have the big weight for age sprints almost at his mercy doesn't sprint anymore. He's going 14 in a mile because Dean is convinced on what he's seen and his experience and expertise that the horse gets a mile. And here he is on the biggest stage in the biggest mile. So he's got to be an interesting runner, and he's got a massive merit rating to go with it, 130. So interesting, fantastic race. I think the pace will be true because you've got an on-speed horse like Snow Pilot, who's got a horse who likes to run handy, Oriental Charm. And One Stripe is not going to be sitting worse than third in running, in my opinion, because he's not going to let Snow Pilot get handed the race on a plate, or he won't at least want him to be too far clear. And this horse Montien is also on speed as well, so I think they'll be going pretty hard, and which means only one thing: the best horse will win.
Correct. They are going to get on with it. Do you think that sometimes, just going back to your discussion about Give Me a Prince, do you think it's the allure of the classic trips that everyone always wants to win?
I mean, it could be. you always look at the trainer in that sort of instance. And Dean he loves a classic race and he loves a mile, and he would always be wanting, if a horse can get a mile, he'll want it to go a mile. And he's done it all over the trips as it is. It is quite interesting to see that a horse who's won the Cape Fly, which is 1,000, you're the fastest horses in the land to win that. And then you beat Thunderstruck.
Beat Rio Kawari.
You beat Rio Karari in that, and you beat We're Jamming. And so he's won the Merchants, he's won the Cape Fly, he's won the Golden Horse Sprint, multiple Group 1s and Group 2s as a sprinter. And then, like I said, he stopped sprinting. Dean said clearly, this horse looks like a miler. And to be fair, his running style over sprints, he's coming at them late. Maybe he is a miler, and he'll show it on Saturday. But it is quite interesting to see the route the horse has gone, especially now, maybe not so much now, but in the last 12 to 16 months, that top sprint division has been completely bereft of good sprinters. So it's interesting.
It also almost opened the door for him, but the bait wasn't taken. I'm sure you'll enjoy that conversation, Justin.
I'll be told off, I'm sure, but let's see how he goes. If he wins, then we'll know the answer.